The rain hammered down like God's own fury, turning the cracked asphalt of Route 66 into a black mirror that reflected my headlights back at me like accusing eyes. I slammed the hood of my beat-up Ford, cursing under my breath as the tire hissed its last defiant breath, leaving me stranded in the middle of New Mexico nowhere, 200 miles from the nearest soul who gave a damn. Then, cutting through the storm like a thunderclap, a rusty Chevy pickup swerved to a stop behind me, its high beams blinding, and out stepped a figure in a wide-brimmed hat who looked like she'd ridden straight out of a John Wayne fever dream, whipcord lean, boots caked in red dust, and a voice that drawled, "Darlin', you look like you could use a hand before the sky decides to drown us both." I wiped the rain from my face, heart pounding not just from the scare but from the sheer improbability of it all. Me, Ethan Harlow, 28-year-old graphic designer from Chicago's concrete jungle, broken down on this godforsaken stretch of highway after ditching my life for a cross-country drive that was supposed to fix everything. The breakup with Mark had gutted me 6 months back. He cheated with some gym rat from his office, left me with a lease I couldn't afford and a hole in my chest that no amount of indie playlists or craft beer could fill. I'd packed the car with sketch pads, protein bars, and regrets, aiming for the Pacific like some beat poet chasing redemption. But redemption, turned out, had a flat tire and a sense of humor. She introduced herself as Lena Vasquez, tipping her hat with a grin that split the night. "Lena," she said, shaking my hand firm as rebar. Close. She was all angles and fire, mid-30s, dark hair braided under that Stetson, eyes like polished obsidian that had seen too many sunrises and not enough apologies. She didn't ask questions, just popped her truck's tailgate and hauled out a jack and spare like it was nothing, her flannel shirt clinging wet to her frame as thunder rolled overhead. "Name's Ethan," I managed, fumbling with the lug nuts while she worked the jack like a surgeon. "What the hell are you doing out here at midnight?" "Haulin' feed for the horses," she replied, not missing a beat. "Ranch life's got no clock. City boy. You headed west." I nodded, mumbling something about starting over. She glanced up, rain dripping from her brim, and for a second, her expression softened, like she saw the raw edges I was trying to hide. "Well, this sparrow'll get you to Albuquerque, but night's no friend to strangers. My place is 10 miles back, crash there. No strings, just coffee and a dry bed." I hesitated, the sensible part of me screaming about serial killer statistics. But the storm was worsening, and her eyes held no shadows, only the quiet certainty of someone who'd pulled herself up from worse. "All right," I said, tossing my tools in the truck bed. "Lead the way." Her ranch was a patchwork of weathered wood and starlit fields, tucked into a valley where the Chihuahuan Desert met the Sangre de Cristo foothills. The main house was a sprawling adobe affair, porch lights flickering like fireflies against the downpour. Lena's dog, a lanky mutt named Buster, bounded out to greet us, shaking water everywhere. Inside, the air smelled of pine smoke and sage, a stone fireplace crackling as she tossed me a towel and pointed to the guest room. "Showers down the hall. I'll heat up some chili." Clean and dry in borrowed sweats that hung loose on my frame, I emerged to find her at the kitchen table, 2 bowls steaming, a bottle of mezcal between us. We ate in companionable silence at first, the rain drumming on the tin roof like a metronome to our stories. Lena was born and raised here, 3rd generation on this land her grandparents claimed after the Dust Bowl. Her dad passed young. Mom followed with cancer 5 years back, leaving her to run the spread with a handful of hands and a stubborn heart. "It's lonely work," she admitted, pouring us shots. "But it's mine." I told her about Mark, the words tumbling out easier than they'd come to my therapist back home. The lies, the late nights, The way he'd packed his vinyl collection while I pretended not to cry. I thought driving west would. I don't know. Wash it clean. Lena nodded, her fingers tracing the rim of her glass. Pains like desert sand. Ethan. It gets in everywhere, but wind comes along eventually and shifts it. Doesn't erase, just rearranges. We talked till the fire died. Her stories weaving tales of rodeos won and lost, coyotes howling under full moons, the quiet ache of holidays alone. There was a brother she mentioned in passing, Jake, off in Santa Fe for business, but her voice caught on his name, like a barb she didn't mean to snag. He's the dreamer, she said, always chasing horizons. Me? I'm the anchor. By dawn, the storm had broken, leaving the world washed sharp and new. Lena saw me off with a thermos of coffee and a number scrawled on a napkin. If you circle back, doors open. I drove away with the sun climbing, Route 66 unspooling like a promise. But something tugged at me, a loose thread in my chest, pulling me toward that valley. Little did I know, the real detour was just beginning. 2 weeks later, I was back. Not planned. Exactly, just a freelance gig dried up. A restlessness that had me looping east instead of pushing to California. I told myself it was the landscape calling. Those red rocks that looked like they'd been painted by Edward Hopper on a bender. But truth? Lena's laugh had lodged in my ear. Her unflinching gaze a mirror to the man I wanted to be. I pulled up to the ranch at high noon, dust swirling in my wake, and found her mending fence wire under a merciless sun. Ethan Harlow, as I live and breathe, she hollered, wiping sweat with a bandana. Told you the desert pulls you in. We fell into easy rhythm, me helping with chores, sketching the barn cats in the shade while she checked irrigation lines. Evenings brought card games by the fire, her boot heels propped on the ottoman, stories flowing like the Rio Grande in flood. Then Jake came home. It was a Thursday, the air thick with monsoon promise. I just finished a watercolor of the mesa at sunset when tires crunched on gravel. Lena straightened from the sink, a shadow crossing her face. That's him. The door banged open, and in strode a man who could have stepped from the pages of my half-forgotten cowboy comics. Tall, broad-shouldered, in dust-streaked Wranglers and a pearl-snap shirt rolled to his elbows. His hair was sun-bleached brown, falling in waves under a resistal hat, and his jaw was shadowed with stubble that begged to be traced. But it was his eyes, storm-gray, guarded, like thunderheads holding back the rain, that hit me like a gut punch. "Jake," Lena said, pulling him into a hug. "'Bout time. This is Ethan, the flat-tire drifter I told you about." He turned, extending a hand rough as sandpaper, his grip lingering a beat too long. "Heard you got yourself rescued. Welcome to the madhouse." His voice was low, laced with that same drawl, but edged with something weary, like he'd been riding herd on ghosts. Dinner that night was brisket slow-cooked to perfection, cornbread crumbling on the plate, the three of us around the harvest table Lena's mom had carved. Jake was quieter than his sister, answering my questions about Santa Fe with clipped tales of real estate deals and city lights that burned too bright. But when he smiled, a rare, crooked thing that crinkled his eyes, it lit the room warmer than the lanterns. I caught myself staring, heat rising under my collar, old wounds from Mark whispering warnings. Not again. Not here. As the night wore on, Lena excused herself early, claiming paperwork, leaving us with whiskey and the hum of crickets. Jake leaned back, boots on the porch rail, staring into the dark. "She says you're running from something." I laughed it off, but he pressed, gentle as a bridle. "We all are, out here. Me, I'm fixing to get married come fall. Clean start. You know?" The word married landed like a stone in still water. Congrats, I said, forcing cheer. Who's the lucky girl? He named her Sarah, a teacher from town, sweet as pie. But his gaze drifted, fingers drumming the bottle. Yeah, sweet. Silence stretched, charged, until he stood abrupt. Night, Ethan. Good meeting you. I lay awake in the guest room, the ceiling fan whirring like my thoughts. Jake's laugh from dinner echoed, the way his knee had brushed mine under the table. Accidental? Intentional? Dawn found me sketching his profile from memory, lines sharp and unforgiving. What the hell was I doing? Days blurred into a haze of labor and longing. I extended my stay, citing inspiration for my art. But really, it was the pull of Jake's orbit. We'd ride out together at dawn, checking cattle on horses that snorted steam in the cool air, his silhouette against the rising sun like a promise carved in light. He'd point out eagle nests, tell half-remembered Apache legends his dad passed down, his voice wrapping around me like smoke. You ever feel like you're living someone else's script? He asked once, reining in at a ridge overlook. The valley sprawled below, endless and intimate. All the time, I confessed, heart hammering. Our eyes met, and for a breath, the world narrowed to the space between us, 3 feet of canyon air thick with unsaid things. Then Buster barked from the trail, shattering it, and we rode back in silence. Lena noticed, of course, over coffee one morning, as Jake tinkered with the tractor in the yard. She slid me a mug with a knowing look. He's not as straight as that arrow he shoots. My mug froze halfway. What? She shrugged, stirring sugar slow. Jake's always been complicated. Dad's old school. Ranch runs on reputation. Sarah's the safe bet. But him? He's got storms in his blood. It explained the glances, the way he'd linger when handing me a tool, the poetry in his offhand stories. That night, after Lena turned in, I found him by the fire pit, flames dancing on his face as he nursed a beer. Can't sleep. I sat beside him, our shoulders inches apart. He nodded, passing the bottle. Old habits. You, thinking too much. The words hung. And then, reckless as youth, I added, about you. His breath caught, bottle pausing at his lips. Ethan. It was a warning, but his eyes betrayed him, hungry, haunted. I leaned in, heart a wild thing, and he met me halfway, our kiss tasting of smoke and salt and the sweet ache of forbidden rain. It was fire and flood, his hands in my hair, my fingers tracing the hard planes of his back, the world dissolving to the press of his mouth, urgent and tender. We broke apart gasping, foreheads touching, his whisper ragged. This can't. Sarah. But he pulled me closer, and in that moment, under the merciless stars, we were just 2 men stealing time from the gods. The affair burned hot and hidden through August's blaze. Stolen hours in the hayloft, whispers in the saddle house, his truck's bench seat under cottonwood shade. Jake unfolded like a secret map, fierce in his touch, vulnerable in his confessions. First time was college, he murmured one dusk, tracing my collarbone. Some frat boy at a party. Woke up the next day and buried it deep. Betrayal had come later. A lover in Albuquerque who'd sold their story to a gossip rag for a quick buck, nearly torching the family name. Dad never knew, but it broke something. Made me vow safe over sorry. I shared my scars too, Mark's casual cruelty. The closet I'd half-stepped out of in high school only to slam shut again. Love's a gamble, I said, his head on my chest. But worth the house. He laughed, soft and rare, and for weeks, felt like we'd won. But secrets on a ranch are like dry rot. Start small, spread fast. Sarah arrived unannounced one crisp September afternoon, her sedan kicking up gravel like an accusation. Blonde and bright-eyed, she hugged Lena fierce, then turned to Jake with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Surprise visit, cowboy. Missed you. Dinner was a minefield. She chattered about wedding colors while Jake's jaw ticked, his foot nudging mine under the table in silent plea. I excused myself early, sketching in the barn to escape the charade. But voices carried on the wind, hers, sharp as barbed wire. Who's he? Jake? That artist lingering like a bad habit. His reply was muffled, but the slam of the screen door echoed. Later, he found me in the loft, face thunderous. She knows. Saw the way I look at you. Panic clawed my gut. What now? I told her the truth. His voice cracked. About us. About me. Relief warred with dread. Sarah had stormed off, vowing silence, but whispers travel faster than dust devils in this town. By morning, Lena cornered us in the kitchen, arms crossed like a sheriff. Talk. Now. We spilled it all, the kisses, the lies, the love that had rooted deep as the cottonwoods. Lena listened, face unreadable, then sighed heavy. Jake, you've been dancing this two-step too long. Dad's gone. The ranch don't care who warms your bed long as the work gets done. But hurting folks? That's not us. To me, she added softer, you see him, Ethan. Really see. Don't let fear win. But fear had teeth. Calls came, neighbors murmuring, a client in Santa Fe pulling a deal. Jake paced nights, ghosts of that old betrayal clawing back. What if it costs everything? He'd rasp, holding me like I'd vanish. I held tighter. Then we build new. The climax hit like a Nor'wester, 2 weeks before the wedding date Sarah had set in stone out of spite or sorrow. We never knew. It was the county fair, lights strung across the midway, air thick with fry bread and regret. Jake had dragged me there, arms slung casual around my shoulders for the first time in public, testing waters. We laughed over corn dogs, his hand brushing mine on the Ferris wheel, the world small and sweet below. Then Harlan, the ex from Albuquerque, materialized from the crowd, older, harder, nursing a grudge like bad whiskey. Vasquez, he sneered, close enough for beer breath. Heard you're playing both sides again. Careful. Folks round here don't forget. Jake went rigid, color draining, but I stepped forward, voice steady. Walk away, man. Story's old. Harlan laughed ugly, pulling his phone. Got proof this time. Sent it to the local rag. Front page tomorrow. Rancher's double life. Betrayal. Raw and renewed. Hit Jake like a brand. He shoved past, vanishing into the night, leaving me chasing shadows through the stalls. I found him at the edge of the fairgrounds, slumped against a fence. Rain starting again. Poetic. Cruel. It's over, he choked. Everything. I knelt, cupping his face. No. It's starting. Harlan's a ghost. We don't let him haunt us. But doubt festered. By dawn, he'd loaded his truck. Note on the table, can't drag you down. Forgive me. Love. J. Lena and I tracked him to a motel in Taos. Rooms smelling of mildew and despair. He answered hollow-eyed. Sarah's ring on the sink like a noose. Go back, he begged. Live free. I refused. Words pouring fierce. Free's nothing without you. We fight together, family, town, all of it. Or what's love but a coward's excuse? He broke then, sobs wrenching, and I held him through the storm, Lena standing guard outside. Days blurred into reckoning. The paper ran a watered-down piece, thanks to Lena's calls. Neighbors trickled by with pies and shrugs. Live and let ride. Sarah sent flowers. A note. Be happy. I was the rehearsal. Fall turned the aspens gold, and we stood on the porch one November eve. Jake's hand in mine. Open now. Scared still? I asked. He grinned. That crooked light. Every day. But with you? Worth it. Lena raised a glass from the rocker. To detours. The desert teaches endurance, not erasure. We built slow. A commitment ceremony under the mesa. Sketches turning to murals on barn walls. Jake's real estate pivoting to ecotourism that saved the land. Betrayals scar, but they map the way to grace. In the end, love isn't the highway straight and true. It's the flat tire at midnight, the hand extended in the rain, pulling you home.